Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast. I'm Niko Tamurian, joined as always by my great friend Najee Moye. Najee, how you doing?
Niko, things are looking up.
They're looking up.
I'm speaking that into existence because things are definitely not looking up after last week. You know, I love this show and I love this podcast. Love doing this with you. I'm coming in pretty hot as far as this episode goes when we talk about the Seahawks because they need it.
Well, if you want to start on the sunny side, which a lot of our audience might be like, what the heck are you guys doing?
Exactly.
Like, what is happening here?
Right.
The positive I would take away, and you're probably gonna laugh at this. You can't possibly have another game where that many crazy mistakes happen again, can you?
It was a very bizarre game. I mean, it's like everything that could go wrong actually did go wrong. And the thing is, it wasn't even because of what Buffalo was doing to the Seahawks specifically. I mean, as we saw early in the game, Saka Paccio, who we had on the episode last week, mentioned Greg Russo's going to be chasing after Gino the whole entire day. Well, it was the first couple plays that he was chasing after Gino, but what actually was the Seahawks tripping over their own feet, quite literally.
I mean, think about that. Yeah. You had, I can't even fathom. You had you had goal to go inside the 5-yard line. Snap goes about 20 yards past Gino.
Sure.
Then you get the first interception all season on the great Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You trip over a lineman, and I don't think it was Gino's fault at all, but it's what happened.
That's
right?
What happened. Yeah.
So you had 2 golden opportunities. You get 3 points out of it. My goodness, you had a team fight.
Due to a lapse of judgment on a movement call.
It's one of those things that I completely get it. If folks watching or listening to this are like, this is a disciplinary thing, and Mike McDonald was supposed to be the disciplinarian, and I wouldn't punt on all of that just yet. Like, it's the first season,
right?
But I get why you're frustrated, and so for me, like that's the kind of stuff that any coach, any fan, anybody will say you can't have. But it's a little concerning, giving that it is discipline stuff, right? It's silly mistakes. Okay, if you go out there and the Bills just have your number, like you just can't do anything.
And the thing is that did happen as well. The Seahawks gave up a lot of yards on the ground to James Cook and Josh Allen, who's who's an MVP candidate.
Yeah,
but it's like the Seahawks never even got out of the gate because they're too busy not fighting with each other.
We're
fighting with each other. Yes.
Well, that's the thing. Like, early on, I was actually happy with how they moved the ball offensively. Like, I mean, defense, they couldn't really stop them, but
right.
I was actually happy. They get down to the goal to go to situation, things like that. But then once you have those opportunities, which you're only going to have so many in any game, let alone against a team like the Bills, then you have those opportunities and you completely waste them. That's the beginning of the end, and then the fighting, and then, late, you had another fumble, you had when you're down 17-3 to start the second half, and you're actually moving the ball a little bit, you've moved it about 30 some odd yards,
right?
And then, Gino throws the pick on the screen pass, like that was the dagger to me.
It was a very crowded spot to throw the ball.
Yeah, like what are you doing? So, and I think it just all snowballed into something. And the reality is, this team, if you want to look at what's forward. Okay, and we're going to do that in depth in a minute.
Right.
They played about as poorly as you could possibly have imagined.
Right.
Yet they're right there in the divisional race. Like,
right.
Like you can somehow still salvage this thing. You can somehow easily, quite frankly, still go to the playoffs.
It can't get any worse. That was, when we talked about this on Sunday, that was probably, and this season is about half over, just a little bit under.
Yeah.
That was the worst game that the Seahawks have played all year.
Yeah.
Just structurally, just discipline wise, and they play one of the best teams. That's the problem. That's why the score was what it was. It actually wasn't even that close on the field, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I'm excited because we get to put that behind us. It was a rainy day, and it will maybe be less rainy actually. Is
it really going to be less rainy?
It will be less rainy. I don't think there's any rain in the forecast this weekend. In fact,
I'll take it.
When they invite the Los Angeles Rams of Anaheim to, I'm kidding. Nice. The LA Rams to Lumen Field, and that's gonna be fun.
Let's put this one to bed from the standpoint of, we talked about the fight with Jaron Reed, Derek Hall, the late hit on Josh Allen. Jaron Reed, he gets into it, didn't like it. At one point, Deion Dawkins from the Buffalo Bills had to separate them, which is almost embarrassing when you think about it. And he even said, he's like, you don't want to see that, but I've never seen it in that way.
Yeah.
Good for him to do that, but And then obviously it kind of blew up more on the sidelines. So credit where it's due. They seem to have moved on, and I want to play what Jaron Reed had to say about that whole incident. So let's hear what he give him credit that he talked about it. They could have easily said he's not going to talk about it.
Right.
But Jaron Reed addressed our local media here in Seattle, myself included. Here's what he had to say about it.
What Josh Allen could do all week with the flopping and everything. And it was like a bonehead play, but I just wanted to let him know that, we can't do that in that time. That was a critical play, a critical time in the game. And, when you do stuff like that, it leads to explosives. That's what we're trying to eliminate. And so that's all we was talking about. And all the other extracurricular activity that went on, that's just being two guys who care about football. Look, D. Hall's my guy. He's one of my friends on his team. Our parents are cool. We're still cool. There's no love lost. It just happens. And we talked about it right afterwards. And, we're just two, alpha males. Everybody out there is an alpha male, and it happens. And you got to move on and keep playing. That's what we did.
That's what they did. And, Naj, you hope that's the case. You hope you move on. And I think they will. Listen, anybody who's played sports, I know I don't look it, but all through high school, that sort of thing. I know you did as well. It's
right.
You played sports, that stuff happens. It just at the NFL level, when I say it happens, they're going to be okay. You just hate to see it at the NFL level in that kind of situation, in that kind of game.
And it was so public. I mean, having Deion Dawkins just kind of be like, "Hey guys, break it up." It's really deeply embarrassing. But the penalty itself was very egregious when you have two offensive players running at the same time, move in motion on Buffalo's side, and you're a linebacker, you're looking in that direction anyway. And then just to tee off on Josh Allen, a quarterback, no less.
Yeah.
Just like that was kind of egregious. So I understand, and I was in the press conference room after that game, and I can tell you that, usually there'll be a couple more Seahawks ready to speak. It was like, I feel like pulling teeth. I mean, they don't normally want to talk. I don't blame them. No one really wants to talk after that either, but it seems as though the locker room and the team has moved on, and I think Seahawks fans should move on and look towards the positive. Is that this is a very good Rams team coming to Lumen Field this week. And they just got to clean it up. They just got to clean it up because that cannot fly 2 weeks in a row.
You
especially
can't
against this Rams team.
Well, how about this? 4 of the next 5 games against divisional opponents. Okay, I'm taking the schedule all the way to December 8th when you count the bye week on the 10th, the weekend of the 10th. And so this stretch is going to make or break this season. And maybe it would have anyway, even if you weren't talking about the amount of conference games, but we're talking about a Seahawks team that 4-4 could be better if they played up to their abilities at times. You think about the Giants loss and things like that.
Right.
Sorry. But it's
they lost though.
Exactly. So it's not too much sorry there. But it's this is it. Okay, you cannot have anything like we saw against the Buffalo Bills. And you'd like to think that performance is put to bed. We're going to put it to bed for now, unless they do something similar again. Then we're going to have to talk about hey, is this a trend? Because right now you can get away with calling the ridiculously out of this world mistakes as an outlier because it was just that. But now you got to bounce back in this way, and you have to make sure that it was just one game, just like you did when you lost to the Niners and then you came out and beat Atlanta. You have to do that this time.
And to your point, you mentioned Atlanta. That game was essentially flawless for the Seahawks. That whole entire game. It was on the road across the country, and you come to Lumen Field, you come back to Lumen Field, and it was rainy. It was a soaker that day, and it just. It's the polar opposite of what you want. But
all right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just making me think about that again, and I'm kind of stewing in
You
know what? If I'm stewing, we're gonna bring somebody and makes everybody at KOMO News smile. He's our resident St. Louis Rams. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
He is our resident LA Rams expert. He works in the KOMO digital department. We love this guy. His name is Taylor Corlew. And we're going to bring him on stage right now. There's Taylor.
Shouts Taylor.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, fellas. How are you guys doing?
We're great.
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Now, for our audience out there, you may remember Taylor had a bit of a cameo in week 1 when I inexplicably, talked to my good friend here, Taylor, and he is just that. And I said, we're going to sweep the Rams. Seahawks are going to sweep the Rams. And you just caught a stray for no reason. And I do apologize for that.
Completely
I just want to make sure you know. So tell us about the Rams, the state of things right now. We know they've battled injuries all year. We know that Mike McDonald has, in fact, just earlier this week called Matthew Stafford toughest crap, toughest SOB out there, so to speak. What can you tell us about this team and the state of things for the Rams right now?
Early on, about 5 games into the season, I think there was a really big misconception about the Rams because we at one point sat with a 1-4 record. And a lot of people's takeaway from the team was that it was a bad team when, in fact, it was just a hurt team. A lot of our linemen went down. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp were down, who were focal points of our offense. And you saw that, on Thursday Night Football last week, once Puka and Cooper Kupp came back, the offense was humming on a totally different level than we've seen in years past. So I'm hopeful. Going into this game, I feel like Matthew Stafford's gotten into a very good rhythm the past few games. Last week on Thursday Night Football, he threw 4 touchdowns total. He had only thrown 4 touchdowns for the season up to that point. So I think it should be a good game on both sides. I was prepared to come in here and boast about how the Rams were, 6-2 against the Seahawks since 2020 in their last 8 games. But there's a multitude of factors that went into that don't apply to this game. So I'm just ready to, turn the page and see what's in store for the next iteration of this Rams-Seahawks rivalry.
I got to refresh my memory if either of you guys remember. Did we put some kind of bet on this back in September, like the Rams-Seahawks series? Did we do that?
Ooh, I don't remember.
I think it might have been like a dinner bet or something,
because it would have been very on brand for me to wager I'm some know-it-all and then wager like the McDonald's here at KOMO.
I think it was.
I believe that's what it was. I think you said if you guys get the season series, then I'll get you McDonald's or something like that. It was something.
I want like 6 nuggets or something.
Wow. Okay.
I got a question for Taylor. Taylor, I mean, you talked about Stafford, you talked about Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and I know those both those players being back are helping a lot of people's fantasy teams, including mine. Let's talk about the run game that the Rams have. I mean, the Seahawks have been known. I don't want to say known, but I mean, last week they gave up a lot of yards on the ground to James Cook.
Yep.
What kind of rushing attack are the Rams going to bring this week?
A consistent one, I would say that Sean McVay, he has been alternating backs between Blake Corum from Michigan and Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams gets a majority of those touches, but as of the past 3 games or so, we've been throwing Blake Corum more into the mix. And if I could, I don't want to, step on your segment later, but
you can step on whatever you want.
Kyren Williams has scored a touchdown, whether rushing or receiving, in the past consecutive 9 games. So I would say that anytime Kyren Williams touchdown would be a solid best bet of the weekend.
Ooh,
I like that.
And that's safe, I think, because I mean he's been cooking definitely, and having Blake Corum as a spell back. I always think that teams are better when they have 2 very, very, very solid running backs. You look at the Lions, the situation like they look at the Seahawks trying to build with Zach Charbonnet and K9. I think the Seahawks, I mean, up front, I'm looking at Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
And I will say, the past couple weeks, the run defense from the Seahawks has been concerning, I will say.
Without a doubt.
Sure.
And the thing with that too, Taylor, is that the Seahawks defensive front has been relatively healthy recently. Yes, Uchenna Nwosu was out, and there's no understating his importance to this team. But Byron Murphy is back. Leonard Williams is back. Moye is back. Okay. You went ahead and made a trade to bolster that line. You brought in a new linebacker in Ernest Jones. The hope is that he can, and former Ram, by the way, of course. The hope is those guys can, kind of bolster things here. It's going to be weird for you to see Ernest in a Seahawks uniform against the Rams this weekend.
Not really. I
wasn't there long enough?
I have a soft spot for all Rams alumni. And,
okay. Now, what I wanted to, my big thing I'm looking forward to this game, and both of you guys, let me know what you think about this. To me, one of the things I was most excited about when Mike McDonald was hired is the sense that he's kind of like a defensive version of Sean McVay. Now, the defense is not playing its best right now, and Mike is the first to admit that. Okay. However, he's here because he's a defensive genius. He's here. He's this kind of wonderkind, youngest coach now in the NFL. I think he took that over from McVay. And, he's again, there's a lot of parallels, except their specialties on the other opposite side of the ball. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Sean McVay offense, the genius that he has built there in the last 5 or 6 or whatever years it's been, going against what Mike Macdonald has done similarly, not the same track record because McVay obviously has won a Super Bowl and all that stuff, but what Mike Macdonald is trying to do, or at least has the pedigree to do on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's going to be a great matchup. How do you guys feel about that? Like, that to me, watching that chess match between two really good coaches, that's going to be a lot of fun for me.
I think it'll be fun, but that being said, I like Coach McDonald. I think he's a defensive genius, and what he did with Baltimore last year was nothing but short of spectacular, but he also has to prove it.
Sure.
Do you remember? I remember there was a couple times during the Buffalo game that we just saw guys like Keon Coleman go one-on-one against Rick Woolen.
Yeah.
You know, and we see almost no pressure on Josh Allen. It's hard to pressure Josh Allen. The Bills have a very good offensive line. I think it'll be a good chess match. I want it to be as better than what I'm kind of painting it right now. McVay is seasoned. He's a Super Bowl champion, no less.
Yeah.
And that offense that he has with, I mean, they look different on Thursday night compared to the. I mean, Taylor brought it up. They look very different on Thursday night.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Taylor?
That was going to be the phrase that I used before you guys both, used it as chess match. And if you guys remember last season, one of the best games, probably top 5 game of last season, was when the Rams went to Baltimore, and it was an overtime shootout, and the Ravens won 37-31. And that was kind of a glimpse into how, advanced of a chess match it was, seeing McVay's offense go up against McDonald's defense. That was one of the better games I was able to watch last year, and I think that we could be in store for another high-scoring game like that. But I'm curious to see what McDonald implements against a McVay offense.
Yeah, no question
with our main receivers,
right?
Both included in the offense.
Absolutely. Taylor, before we let you go here, we'll get a prediction from you in a second. We'll do our predictions in a minute as well. What is one thing you're watching in this game that, listen, it's not like it's the Bills where us here in the Pacific Northwest, we might catch a couple of highlights or something on social media here and there. We know the Rams pretty well. We know Matt Stafford and all those guys by now close enough. But what's something about this year's team that you're looking at, or, is like, okay, this could be the key for them to win this game against the Seahawks and keep marching forward and be in the mix anyway of this divisional race?
I would say mainly our defensive front getting pressure to Geno Smith.
Sure.
Well, that won't be hard.
Jared Verse, who I mentioned in
I love that guy.
My previous cameo, he's probably far and away the leader for defensive rookie of the year ranking right now. He's leading all rookies with 31 quarterback pressures with 31. And I would say if we can get to Geno, pressure him, make him, navigate in the pocket and throw tight window throws that he doesn't really want to make, which is, kind of been his Achilles heel, you could say, in games past. I think that would be a recipe for success. But ultimately, the Rams defense, this is a young Rams defense. This is not like the 2019-2020 Brandon Staley defense that was, dominating the league at that point. But, I mean, if our front can play like we played in the past 2 games, I think that could be a recipe for success, at least defensively.
Absolutely. Jared Verse was a guy. Now I remember, I was like, hey, I'd be so happy if the Seahawks drafted.
Right, you mentioned
they could have, but they went Byron Murphy, and he's awesome too.
I like Byron Murphy, but and Taylor said it, that defensive front for LA is gonna, if they can pressure the quarterback. Well, pressuring Geno is something that has been pressure on Geno, I should say. It's been the Achilles heel for the Seahawks a lot of this year.
Yeah.
We saw in the Giants game that maybe the second worst game the Seahawks have played all year. The Geno's running for his life.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
It's a little crazy.
Start with you, Najee. What's going to happen in this one?
I think I think that the Seahawks need to stay on the field. I think they need to stay on the field on offense and keep the Rams offense off the field. I think that is just long sustained drives. I think they need to take a playbook out of Buffalo's page out of Buffalo's playbook last week. Start by running the ball. It's hard to do when your offense line isn't so great. The Seahawks kind of made some inroads with that, with some screens, kind of going against the that quarterback pressure, kind of luring them in, getting everyone behind you. What do the Seahawks need to do to win? Well, we got to pray DK Metcalf is healthy, first of all.
McDonald optimistic that'll happen.
And I think because that gives them another playmaker on the offense, what we saw on Sunday was them looking at JSN a lot. Lockett got some passes, but that being said, it's like Gino was kind of like looking for someone to go. My pick fantasy-wise last week was Noah Fant. He didn't even get a catch last week.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was brutal.
So what's your score prediction in this one?
Ooh.
Putting you right on the spot. And Taylor, you're coming next, man. So
here's the thing. I think because the Seahawks need this game. They need this game. I think it'll be very close. Honestly, I think it may be like a 3-point game. And I think it's going to, but I do believe that because the Seahawks need it so badly. That being said, the Rams do too. This is a division game.
Oh, yeah.
What's the word on DK?
Optimistic that he'll play. And he should be. I would suspect he's going to play. He'll get back on the practice field this week. I would suspect he's going to play. Mike McDonald said he was optimistic. Normally, if it was like anything less than probable, it would be more like, we'll take it day by day. We'll see how he looks. The fact that they're anticipating him being out there and all that sort of thing, I think we're on track to see him back. Now that things can change, injuries can be aggravated and that sort of thing. So we'll keep an eye on it. But that caveat for your prediction, Najee didn't get that caveat, but for your prediction, you get that.
Well, no, it's okay. I was just thinking about the last 3 home games the Seahawks have played. They've lost. The Bills, Niners, and Giants, and all those losses weren't great losses. I mean, I think even Geno Smith said it on at the post-game press conference. Like he said, the Bills game felt like an away game at one point, which is brutal, and that's something you don't want to hear. I want to pick the Seahawks, and I'm going to, but my confidence level is not as high as it was, let's say, 2 weeks ago, obviously.
Yeah.
Seahawks win 24-31, 24-21, last-second field goal.
It's literally what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. Division games are generally close. But that being said, that Rams offense makes me nervous when you have Niko and Cup like that.
Well, since we have basically the same prediction, I'll go first, and we'll let Taylor finish up before we let him get back to work. I mean, he's working now, but you know what I mean. I think we're going to see Seahawks 24-22 just for the sake of being different than you by 1 point.
Sure.
I guess I could have made that more normal and say 24-20, but we're going 24-22. To me, what I've seen in this very small 8-game Mike McDonald sample size is that when their backs are against the wall, when they've seemingly hit the low point, they scratch and claw and fight their way back. Okay, low point, 3 straight losses. The Niners come to your home field and kind of beat you going away, if not for that comeback.
Yeah.
Then you go to Atlanta and win by 3 touchdowns. Now, okay, it's just 1 game later, but the Bills kind of embarrassed you in a few ways, right? Everything we talked about at the top of this show. If there's one thing about Mike that I've learned so far, his guys aren't quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe there's some disciplinary stuff like the fights and things like that, but I think that's because they are so passionate about. They want to win for this coach, and so I think that they will bounce back. I think it's going to be an emotional bounce back win. They're going to head into the bye week on the right note, and then boy, then you get the Niners, Cardinals, Jets, Cardinals, and that 4-game stretch
Seahawks
itself.
Stability. Baby.
Oh, he's bringing out the Seahawks. It's like of course so.
They need it, baby.
Taylor, what do you got for me?
They need it.
I am thinking a 27-24 kind of game.
Well, who's going to win it?
In favor of the Rams.
In favor of the Rams, okay.
Unsurprising.
Just because objectively, I do think our offense is a little bit more balanced, a little bit more seamless.
Okay.
A little bit more in rhythm right now. I know our last 2 wins are the Vikings and the Raiders. Raiders is hardly noteworthy, but it's the reps that we've been getting with the offense against those teams that I think, will be applicable to the Seahawks game.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a trajectory there, no question about it. Taylor Corlew, you're officially a guest here on the KOMO Sports End Zone, and we appreciate your insight on the Rams. I look forward to you buying me McDonald's next week. And
Niko said, "Don't forget the ranch."
I don't like ranch.
Oh, you don't like ranch?
No, if you like McDonald's, I want sweet and sour or barbecue.
Okay, there you go. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Well, I'll go with you. It'll be fun.
Thank you guys for having me.
If the Rams win, we'll figure out what I take care of for you. So
it's been long overdue. Thank you guys.
Oh, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
You know, we got to fix that. The thing is, the Seahawks have been inconsistent the whole year. I think one question asked in the press conference was like, "What is this team? They win 3, lose 3, win a great game in Atlanta, and then lose a terrible game in Seattle against Buffalo." So it's like, what's the deal? Who are you?
Well, that's the thing, and you talked about it. Like, this is the Seahawks have to have this game. Taylor's point about the Rams and his prediction, it has to do with trajectory, right? And if you're the Seahawks and, already you've lost 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
It just didn't feel that way because of how good they looked against Atlanta.
Yeah.
But
and Atlanta's a good team.
Yeah. So I think that, this is important. I think that this is something that, boy, oh boy, it's going to be, you know what it reminds me of? Totally different game, caliber of opponent, all that stuff.
Sure.
It reminds me of that Monday night game with the Eagles last year. Now, if you remember, the Seahawks had lost 4 in a row.
Right.
And nobody gave them a chance. Geno was out. Drew Lock was starting, all this stuff. Yet they found a way to win. Now, I get it, different regime and all that stuff, but there's something about the culture with that team. That's the kind of game Seahawks win, and that's why I predicted they will.
The Seahawks need to protect Lumen Field.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When I heard Geno Smith say that it felt like an away game, I know Buffalo fans, they travel well.
Yeah, sure.
I know quite a few of them at the game,
Right.
But listen, this is Seattle, okay? This is a division rival. You're bringing these guys from LA, and they cannot win on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, and that being said, you look at the rest of the division. LA has gotten better. The Niners, I mean, say what you want about injuries. I know they're probably the most hurt team in the NFL right now.
I agree.
But they still have a great quarterback, and they still have a great coach that can lead them through a lot of things. And and I'll get to the Cardinals in a second because I think we're going to do some more picks here in a little bit. But I'm confident in the Cardinals, honestly, and as a team, they're firing on all cylinders. So this is not a situation where the Hawks can afford to lose 2 games in a row. Especially considering you lose to Buffalo like this. This is a division game. The Hawks at this moment are at the top of that division, but you don't want to have that tiebreaker situation. With the Rams, and it's you got to have it. Like I just can't. Look. I'm Captain.
I like it.
Not Captain Seahawk. I'll never be Captain Seahawk. But listen, I mean, this you need to have this.
If they win, you got to wear it every show at least for a little bit.
Hey. And that's I'm willing to do that for y'all.
So we got a couple things to hit on before we go. I want to talk first about, we always make our best bet here.
Right.
I want to talk to you about the changes in lines this week. How about this? So for example, the Cleveland Browns opened as a 3-point favorite over the Chargers. Now they're a 1.5-point underdog, 4-point swing.
Okay.
The New Orleans Saints, I should say, were favored by 1 when it opened over the Carolina Panthers. Now they're favored by 7.5. That's a 6.5-point swing.
Who was over the Panthers again?
New Orleans.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that mine went up by 6 points. I mean, the Bills only opened as a 3-point favorite over the Dolphins. Now it's 6. I mean, it's still, a 3-point thing, which is kind of unique.
Right.
Same thing. Cowboys were a 1-point favorite over the Falcons. Now 2.5-point dogs. Trying to find the most drastic ones. The Giants opened as a 1.5-point favorite over the Commanders. Now they're a 4-point underdog.
I don't know why they even opened as a favorite.
That's what I'm saying. There's some unique ones. And then another kind of a unique jump. The Eagles opened as 3.5-point favorites over Jacksonville. Now they're 7.5. So there's a few games like that are really unique. The Packers opened as 1.5-point favorites over Detroit. Now they're a 3-point underdog.
That's going to be a fun game.
Gosh, here's another one. The Vikings opened as a 1-point favorite over the Colts. Now they're favored by 5.5. So generally speaking, those are swung by how much bettors are putting on people.
Right.
So do you like somebody in particular? I'm going to, I would have, if you gave me the open line, the Bills, I would have picked favored by 3, but 6 is, a healthy margin in the NFL.
Had the Bears Cardinals game changed at all?
Yeah, the Cardinals were 1-point underdogs. Now they're 1-point favorites. So a little bit, but not much.
And I think that game was a toss-up, but I don't think it will be even that close. I like the Cardinals a lot. And it really just comes down to Caleb Williams playing against a guy who's actually a better version of Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with
Go
ahead.
I will say this, though. You brought up that Packers-Lions game of the week.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going Commanders favored by 4 over your Giants.
That's fine.
I think they've just kind of got something going right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're hot. Jaden Daniels is on my fantasy team right now, and he's probably I reached for him. He's the backup quarterback in the 8th round, and I didn't play him last week. I should have. I didn't know. It was a game time decision for him, and it was
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Was that your Halloween costume?
No, it could be though. I don't. It looks good on me. I like it. Though.
I like it too.
This is something I found in the pits of the sports office here at KOMO.
Yeah,
so.
no, I know it's a gift from Eric. Great Eric Johnson.
Shout out to
The reason
Eric Johnson.
I ask is Mike McDonald was asked about Halloween.
Okay.
And this was my favorite thing I've heard all week. I just want to play what he said when he was asked about Halloween costumes and all that sort of thing. Let's take a listen.
Halloween guy. I was Bill Belichick one year. I think he'll appreciate that. Maybe he won't because I were playing on defense. I don't know. Scary movie. Halloween guy, Scream guy. Classics.
There you go.
I could see him as a Bill Belichick.
I could see him as a Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And I want to get to know Mike more as a person. I certainly get to talk to him
there's something there. I know he's kind of new.
And he's so all business.
He's new. We're trying to pull. I mean,
but when I get to talk to him one-on-one, like he's the coolest guy.
Yeah.
Like I bet you, like watching say Scream with Mike McDonald is a freaking hoot.
Right.
And like I remember when I did my one-on-one interview back when he was hired in February. We were talking about our Jordans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Mike McDonald, for being Bill Belichick for Halloween.
That's a good costume.
Yeah, absolutely.
He should don the ripped hoodie.
He should.
The weather's great for it after all. So.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest, great.
Yeah. What is your favorite Halloween movie? Do you have a good one? Your Halloween go-to.
Scream franchise.
The Scream franchise?
Yeah, no, that's a good. I mean, let me rephrase that. The one in the 90s, like nowadays, I'm like, I did like that some of the more modern ones are kind of tied back into the 90s.
Yeah.
Like it kind of harkens back, but yeah. Najee, that was a fun show.
That was a good show. That's a good show. We need the Seahawks Nation. Please pack out Lumen Field.
You got,
please.
Vivid Seat said it was 57% Bills last week. Let's change
What
that
is
around.
that? That's nuts.
Go Hawks. Get back on track. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.